Drac will lead them out of the tower.
Rist will turn back, open his mouth looking at Otto, and in the rare moment of caution decide not to make a comment and leave.
Wizard, y'all leaving?
Yes, we are also. I am also leaving.
All right. The four of you make your way back out into the camp, and the moment the last one of y'all's ankles crosses the threshold of the door, it slams shut.
Drac's going to walk with a purpose, and walk as fast as he can to make the elf and the human, and unfortunately Rest, annoyed at him, is going to walk right at the...
I don't know if they'll be too annoyed with you going first.
That is true, but...
As you're walking out, you do notice the villagers are there's still some hubbub among them. They're not shouting, but they are and they do seem very upset and are talking to each other. And as you come out of the gate, a lot of them stop and look at you, but they frown and they don't seem too concerned.
Drac will walk up to the woman, give a bow, and say, "Drac Frost, at your service. I will be helping you rectify the actions of a few idiots."
She nods her antlered helm to you, Drac.
And then Drac will motion to the wizards behind him and say, "Said idiots. Rist, not an idiot. At least in this way."
Gstaad will not say anything, and he will caution getting close, as she's kind of freaking out his Sigmarite value.
First she looks at Rist, and she holds up her hand and does a little wave again, and then she focuses her attention on you, Vertstat, but she doesn't make any move. But you notice a lot of the peasants are kind of looking confused, and a lot of them are looking at you, and some of them, as they look at you, Vertstat, seem to clench their torches or weapons in hand tighter. Some of them to the point that their knuckles are white, but nobody really says anything.
Okay.
Alright, Sotek.
Yeah.
I want to go up to the group of peasants, especially the ones who are throwing the rotten fruit. "Ah, that was a wonderful choice of fruit you had there, right mushy and pulpy. Gives a great splat. Shame you ran out and had to use rocks at the end. But, well, looks like you're going to be getting just what you want. We'll try to settle this up real fast." And I want to make a charm check to assuage their fears, or at least 5 of their fears.
Whoa, this could be impressive. You say that, and the nearest peasant looks down at you and he goes, "Oh, it's not bad enough we have to deal with all of this insanity and these outsiders. Now they're sending thieves to the village."
Hey, I caught that fruit fair and square. If you're throwing them at me, it can't be thievery.
Most of them at this look a little more perplexed than anything, but the one nearest to you says, I'll have my eyes on you, Shortland."
"Oh, that's fine. I'm a watchman. You're supposed to be able to see me, not like those sneak thieving." And he'll mutter off. Unheard.
He frowns, and the people behind him have confused murmurs at the mention of a halfling watchman.
Drac will put his hand on Rist's shoulder gently and say, "This halfling is also a troll. You're in good hands."
There is
What?
much more confused murmuring.
Mildly injured is what I did. Didn't slay nothing.
The woman cocks her head, and then she looks and she says, "One of you is missing."
Aye. Drac will look, see Verve hiding, walk over and say, "Either you get out there, elf, or I'm dragging you." One of them is more. One of these options is more likable to your sensibilities. I'm assuming.
I'm just watching with caution.
They're waiting on you, elf.
I will walk out, but Sotek, I want to make sure that my features are well considered.
Okay. You walk out and Frida
It's enough.
Frida cocks her head again, and she nods to you before turning to the villagers, and many of them seem very uneasy, especially about this mysterious cloaked fourth person who's come out. And a lot of their mutterings getting louder, and all of them are staring directly at this mysterious individual. And Frida
Do I
gestures.
see the boy that we saved among this?
You do not. You do not see. Oh gosh,
Hans.
Hans. Yeah, no, you don't
Hans,
see
yeah.
Hans. These are all adults. You notice none of them brought their kids to Riot Day.
They're not giving a good old-fashioned riot bonding time. Shameful. Humans these days. Grumble, grumble.
Anyway, so Frida, she kind of looks back at the people of Hagerdorf, and you notice most of them kind of shrink away from her a little bit if she looks at them directly. But she kind of looks back and forth from both groups, and she nods for a moment. And as she turns back to the four of you, one of the villagers shouts, "That has to be the witch! That has to be the witch!" And he throws a rock at you, Verve. Take a dodge check.
I was gonna say it's probably no Drax nowhere near to intercept with the shield, is it?
You would have to raise it up really, really high.
Yeah. I mean, Drax really tall for a dwarf.
True.
Tall,
But it's a pretty high angled shot anyway. Verve, you're pretty. It was not the most accurate of shots. It was close, but it definitely goes a little about a foot too high, and as it picks up momentum, sails past you to thud into the wall behind. And a lot of the villagers, kind of energized by this, immediately start to press forwards. And a lot of them are lowering their weapons or bringing their torches forward. And as they get to the point surging forwards where they're starting to sort of surround around the flank of Rist and Drac, Frida turns and says, "That is enough." And all the villagers freeze, and they all look at Frida, and some of them... You notice a few of... two men in particular have tears streaking down their face, but nobody moves. And she turns to look at all of them. She says, "That is enough." And all of the villagers slowly lower their weapons and back up. And a few of them kind of give consoling pats to each other's shoulders. And you hear some whispered words. And although a few of them are resistant to the point that they have to be kind of dragged away by their more chilled out brethren, eventually they all slowly but surely start to make their way back to the village.
I was gonna say, is Frida going with? Because then Drax following.
Not yet.
Okay.
She stays behind for a moment. Frida waits for them to sort of go into the tree line past the dwarven camp, and you see them all turn a little bit and head towards where the actual village of Hagerdorf is before she turns back to the four of you, and she says, she nods her head slightly and says, "I am Priestess Frida. I believe you will be assisting me with taking care of a incident."
Yep, that's what I heard.
We're setting things right.
She does cock her head over at you, Verve, and she sort of shakes her skulled head and she says, "I'm not sure what you are, but you're definitely not human, and you're definitely not a halfling or a dwarf."
That does leave one obvious conclusion.
One obvious, perhaps, but if there's anything I've learned in my life is that sometimes the
I will
obvious.
throw off my hood.
Sometimes the obvious is the correct one.
He's a girl!
She pauses in her speech, and then sort of nods her head and says, "It was probably wise you keep your figures hidden around the village."
I nod.
And she turns and she starts heading towards the village and says, "If the four of you will follow me, I will take you to where you will begin."
Drac will nod and follow.
I will put my hood back on.
Verstappen will slowly follow.
As the four of you, or five of you, walk together for a little bit, she turns and says, "I'm not going to lie to you. The thing you're going to need to deal with is rather unsettling."
Wouldn't be my first time seeing it, that sort of thing. Don't worry.
Perhaps not an adult, but on a child, it's...
Seen that too.
She nods slowly, and
I'm from Vorskala.
you do notice as you pass by the
Dwarves.
Keventen clan, the dwarves, a lot of them are shooting you really ugly looks, Drac. There's
Me?
specific. There's a lot of accusation being hurled your way in those eyes.
Drac will match every eye and then look at the elf.
If they catch on to your implication, it's unclear. Where is...
The elf put her hood back up.
People still know it's an elf.
Well, they've seen her. The dwarves aren't stupid. They are vaguely aware she exists, even if they have better things to do. Checking a page on my note real quick. One sec. Talk among yourselves for half a second.
So,
Well, you don't know that it was me, so you don't have that conscience.
I'm a dwarf. I'm making assumptions. Who do you think I'm going to blame? The human or the elf in this situation?
To be fair, all the villagers probably would have blamed the elf too.
I'd assume it'd be the one that hit you in the back while you were fighting goblins to protect them.
That may or may not be playing into it. I won't deny it.
Yes. Cold dwarf stabber, as he is known.
So, I will say to Verve, I couldn't help but notice that you were gone most of yesterday. Where exactly did you go when we were at Anders?
Back to the shrine.
You went back to the shrine alone?
I will not.
Was it safe?
But I did it anyway.
Did you at least learn something?
I learned that the shrine may have a darker past, as I suspect. But we'll leave that up to Anders. I gave him all the relevant information that I learned.
Verstappen will put his face in his palm and say, "A darker past, huh?"
All right, Frida. She being a fairly tall and athletic woman, it's almost difficult to keep pace with her. It seems like the way she walks through, like, just nature, she seems it's almost eerie how she naturally seems to fit into it. And where she walks, despite being barefoot, she seems to mystically avoid stepping on anything and to the point that when she walks, she is deathly silent. You don't hear her feet crunching leaves or grass. She doesn't seem to ever even look where she's going, but she doesn't step on any twigs or anything. It almost seems like the forest makes way for her. And it's fairly difficult to keep pace with her, but she never gets so far ahead you can't hear her talking, which she never seems to raise her voice. But she does turn and look back at the four of you, and she says, "We'll be going to a small housestead on the edge of the village. We won't be going through, as tensions are a little... I don't want to cause anyone any undue stress." And she just sort of nods and says, "It'll take us a minute to reach there, but I hope... so just keep up with me and we shouldn't have any issues."
Alright, I'll try, but you move really quick through here. How are you so quiet?
Her skull turns to you, wrist, and she says, "Years of practice. I grew up here, and I've always been here. I'm a part of this forest, and it's a part of me. It's like a fish swimming through water."
I don't think I'll get years of practice at my rate. Sneaking about just isn't in me.
Yes, we have had much experience with the rest.
Cramps my thighs, something awful.
She looks down at you, wrist, and with like a twinge of mirth in her voice, she says, "Perhaps there wasn't the right motivation to desire enough quiet. The only time that a halfling has successfully snuck through Hagerdorf is when we had an awful pantry raid about 10 years prior."
I believe Riss swore to never actually go to Hagerdorf because he heard there were no pies.
I've been reconsidering that, actually. While it could be good never to go because there aren't such things as pies, it is criminal to leave there to be never a pie there. It's a difficult conundrum to think. I'll ponder upon it.
She quirks her head curiously, but doesn't say anything as she continues leading you. And eventually, you do get in sight of the town of Hagerdorf, and finally, for the first time, the four of you are able to lay your eyes on it, and it is a very humble abode, to say it politely.
Humble, it doesn't even have a map.
Yeah, that's correct. At least not yet. The village of Hagerdorf is... all of the buildings there have been built out of wood, though there's a few that seem like they're made from old stones that were likely taken from the mountains themselves. And this place looks ancient. Like, every building that is there seems to be like half building, half plant life that has overtaken at least the outside of it, with vines and all sorts of brambles and flowers growing along the outside. Some of them have like trees basically functioning as a wall where if they sprouted out through a part of the home. If it weren't for all the people you see moving around through the muddied streets, which are dirt right now thanks to the recent lack of rain, but like you can tell this place has been here for a really long time by human standards, anyway. And it's kind of impressive these people have survived out here this long, and that there's so many of them. There's like it seems like if you had to take a ballpark figure, there's probably almost a good 100 people living in this village from just an eye glance.
How old is this village?
Frida sort of pauses as to think, waiting for the four of you to catch up a little bit before she continues, and she says, "Oh, it's been here... well, it's been here before Sigmar, I can tell you that. This place belongs to those who revere much older ways."
So, at least 2,500 years.
She,
That's a lot of years.
There's some chuckling from her, but she declines to comment further. And as you...
I said at least.
As you past the village, you do see there are a number of homes that are like a little further out. They're like built on slightly elevated ground, maybe to try and have optimal positions to avoid flooding or things like that. But she stops at one particular abode that's a little larger than the others, and she stops outside. And the first thing you notice is that the door is just wide open, where all the other ones were at least shut. And there, you can just see from outside, you can smell death, and you can just see blood inside. And she pauses and turns to the four of you and says, "It is by... well, it is important to the people of our ways that the four of you deal with this as representatives of the outsiders who have come here. I don't know why this happened, but I know it. But all I can say is I know for certain it would not have happened if this Silverwood had never come here. He sent the four of you as representatives to resolve the situation, so I will leave it in your hands."
Drac nods.
And
I'm just thinking on the fact that, as of right now, for some reason, Drac is the face of the party.
Well, what I was gonna do is, I will say it is in there.
make sure to hold your button for a bit after you stop talking, remember?
I will say it is in there.
She shakes her head and says, "No, but this would probably be the best place to start trying to figure out where it is."
Does anyone have a description?
She shakes her head, but she sort of idly gestures to the door and says, "The sooner you begin, the less distance you'll have to cover to catch up with it, I hope. If you do need a guide," she says, "if you do need a guide, if you need to go into the forest for some reason, feel free to ask among the villagers. I have other duties I need to attend to. I will find you after you return to the village and hopefully successful. If you don't find it by nightfall, I would probably return here. It's dangerous to go too far out east."
I will head in immediately.
Drac as well.
Verstadt will blanch a little bit, but go in as well.
Alrighty. One sec.
Riss will wave goodbye to her and then look around outside for footprints.
What do I need to do to check for magical aura or trails, signature?
Not too much. Hold on a hot second. Oh, dang it. Put y'all by the doorway. Alright, you enter the building, and the first thing that hits you is the smell. It is not pleasant in here. But the second thing you notice is that this is not a house. If you had to guess, this is probably like some kind of really sad excuse for a healing house, maybe? Some kind of care. But it is empty now except for a very, very mangled corpse and a lot of blood.
Drac will pay. Is this like a hole in the wall or a broken window?
That is a window, but these people can't afford glass. It's very nice of you to assume they could.
It could have had like a board on it or something to prevent read.
Nah, they're open.
Because I don't remember what season we're in, and if we're out in the
We're
mountains,
in-
they probably would have boarded it up.
We are in late summer still.
Okay.
Thankfully, it's not too hot in this part of the Reichland. Reichland itself doesn't get terribly hot in the summer, but it's a little well, it probably wouldn't be that unpleasant in here if it weren't for, the body.
Verve, were you gonna use your second sight to check for
Yeah.
anything?
Oh, Verve, roll a intuition check.
Intuition or like evaluate something with intelligence?
Intuition.
Verve, not Verstat.
I know.
Also, yes.
Okay.
Pluses, minuses.
Plus 40. All right. So, and just okay, yeah. So Verve, you rolled twice for the mutant born, and Vertstat had the turn water something into water, right?
Correct.
Okay, just checking my memory. All right,
Some liquid into water, not something into water.
Uh,
Let's be clear here.
Verve, you don't sense a lot of you don't sense much in the way of magic or see, but what you do feel, especially where the blood is really, really pulled onto the ground with some unmentionable other nonsense, you do feel a very faint but distinct sense of familiarity. Like there is a connection between a very deep but confusing connection between you and this place. Kind of like the you being as connected with storms as you are, you feel like almost standing in a place where lightning has struck long after the storm is gone.
I will audibly sigh, kind of bow my head, and I'm guessing that's the
What?
that's the mother right there.
Yes.
I will put a hand on her forehead, and after a moment, I will say, "There's no magical." So we need to use more conventional means.
I see.
Right, there is no magical trail.
That is correct. Well, so there's not a magical trail, Verve, but you feel something in that blood that you feel like almost an electric
Drawn to.
bond to,
Don't
but you
wanna
notice it's
go.
not just the big puddle, it's all of every inch of it, even the ones leading away.
Can I focus this magic sense almost like a tracking?
Yes.
Okay, so like GPS or something. It is over there.
You may use a tracking test by using this innate sense. Yes. It is strong enough that you can track by using it.
Okay. I won't do that just yet. I think we'll follow these before I point out that I have a connection to it.
I mean, Drac is already blaming you, so nothing to lose there.
So, Verve, did you see anything special with your second sight?
I will look at you gravely, and say, I will just say yes.
Wrist, you said you were looking outside, right?
Yep, let me know when it's a good time to pop in my head and say, hey, I found a bloody footprint.
Yeah, you're good. You literally come around to the window and you see Drac staring at you through it.
Wrist.
I found the trail.
I was about to ask that.
Oh, right there. Keen detectoring it was.
Wrist, You see on the outside of the windowsill, especially, there is a large smatter of now clotted and dried blood. But the thing that really catches your attention is that there are feathers sticking out of it.